Hi, my name is Sulabh and I'm a social work student here in Australia. The question I want to reflect on today is, will social workers intervene globally or not? My first reaction when I first heard the question was yes, of course, but throughout the unit I have realized that it is a lot more complicated than it seems. So I want to talk about what challenged me, what I think are the possibilities, and what it means for me personally as someone training to be a social worker here in Australia. The first question is the challenges and critics of international social work. The first challenge for a social worker doing international social work would be to navigate the professional imperialism. It is a term that Midley came up with in 1981, and it describes the way social work as a profession is set on the standards of global north and is been shipped out to the global south uh, without anyone really asking whether it fits or not. And what I find is a major challenge is that the professional imperialism is not a thing that's happening in the past, but it is still happening in today's society. Hugman 2010 justifies the statement saying that the dominance of northern model has not gone away, but it has become less obvious now due to the continuous assimilation process. For example, in international social work practice, it will look like the organizations, policies, and systems treating the one way of doing things as the right way simply because it comes from a place somewhere powerful, and them pushing away the local knowledge and expertise that communities have about their own lives. The another challenge of the critic of while practicing international social work would be to navigate around universalism versus cultural relativism. So universalism is a concept that demands fixed set of rules imposed around the globe, whether relativism argues that cultures, traditions, and histories impacts the way rules will be perceived. And universalism will impose Western social work, which often emphasizes individual self-determination and independence. But relativism says that many cultures, examples, Aboriginal communities place a stronger emphasis on collective well-being, kinship systems, connection to country, and shared responsibility within families and communities. So, if a social worker automatically assumes that Western values as universal and imposes them in Aboriginal communities and other communities, they risk overlooking this strength and imposing approaches that may not be culturally appropriate. The second question is the opportunities and possibilities of international social work. While talking about the challenges and critics of international social work, we should also note that these challenges are that are being discussed are not limited within boundaries. Poverty, displacement, trafficking, climate disasters are the common challenges faced by the world. So these challenges brings an opportunity for international social work to practice on a global level. Hugman 2010 discusses the need of international social work to function at micro, meso, and macro levels simultaneously. For example, if we are sitting with a refugee family doing casework, then we might think we are working in a micro level, but the situation that the family is in is due to the international systems, global policy failures, conflict, and all these are happening at a macro level, and we cannot really support the family without understanding these issues. Also, international social work can provide opportunities for social workers to work with organizations such as UNHCR, UNICEF, Save the Children, and be a part of communities like International Federation for Social Workers, through which we can raise our voices on global issues like climate change, asylum policies, gender equality, and other issues. And the third question is what this means for me as a social worker practicing in Australia. So, while talking about international social work in Australia, we need to understand that Australia has its own history of colonialism, including the forced removal of children from Aboriginal and Torres Strait communities, in which social workers played a role of frontliners. So, because of this history, I don't think that Australian social workers can approach international social work from a neutral position. We need to be responsible, and we need to have the responsibility to practice with humility and self awareness. The ASW Code of Ethics is built around human rights and social justice, and I believe in these values. However, this unit has also challenged me to think about how these values are applied across different cultural contexts. Since Australia is a multicultural country, social workers working at Australia need to practice international social works while working with immigrants, refugees, and these people from different cultures and cultural practices might impose rights violations. So, Haley 2020 argues that we cannot ignore human rights violations just by simply saying that it's their culture, but at the same time, we also need to understand that we cannot impose Western standard. and we need to work with sensitivity and respect. So these issues create as the ethical senses that how we can uphold human rights while also respecting the cultural differences. And I honestly think that there is not one perfect answer, but I believe that the answer begins with partnership, humility, openness to learning, and advocacy. So social workers working alongside communities rather than making decisions on their behalf. At a conclusion, so should social workers interviewed worldwide or not? I think they should, but not in a way that it has been done before. I think social workers should not impose Western narratives as universal, should not act as knowing all the answers, but build and work on building engagement, communication, and let communities and cultures lead the path and make people understand about their rights while also being open to learning their beliefs, cultures, and challenging our own narratives and being openness towards learning. Thank you for listening.